Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to GSL-English. My name is Gideon, and I'm here once again to give you 5 daily English expressions. Using the expressions that we are going to look at today will help you to speak fluent, natural, and confident English. And that is exactly what I want to help you to do. So, the expressions that we are going to look at today are very varied. They're not within a specific category or topic. They're just 5 general English expressions that we can use every day or in our daily life. So as we go through, maybe there are some new ones to you that you haven't heard of before. But even if you have heard these particular expressions before, make sure you watch the whole video, because sometimes we realize that we can use certain expressions in a variety of contexts. So let's get straight into it with expression number 1, and that is to describe something as a no-brainer. To describe something as a no-brainer. What does that mean? Well, basically, when we describe something as a no-brainer, it means that we don't have to use our brain. And we particularly use this expression to describe something that is very easy to do, something that is easy to understand. It's not going to take a lot of our brain power to accomplish or complete. It's in essence saying that the brain does not need to be involved. That's how easy it is. So let's look at some examples where this expression, a no-brainer, could be used. Now, the first area that we could use this expression is when making decisions. For example, let's imagine that you are offered a job which is double the salary you are currently getting for the same amount of work. That doesn't take much thinking, does it? It's a no-brainer. It's an obvious decision. We can use it to talk about actions. For example, studying for an important exam. If we want to do well in that exam, it's a no-brainer. It doesn't take much thinking. It's not really a choice that we have to make. We need to study if we want to do well in that exam. It's a no-brainer. Or let's say, for example, you're allowed to work from home one day after traveling to the office every single day, and your boss says to you, what would you like to do? Would you like to work from home, or would you like to travel a far distance into the office again? Well, generally, it's a no-brainer. I'll work from home. It doesn't take much thinking, does it? We can also use this expression to talk about things or situations. For example, if we are able to, choosing the scenic routes on a road trip. So maybe it adds a little bit more time in, but you're not in any kind of time restraints. You're not worried about time, so that might be a no-brainer. Do we take the motorway or do we take the scenic route? It's a no-brainer. Let's take the scenic route. Maybe you're buying a book that you've wanted for a long time, and we know that books can be expensive, but you're going to the shop and you see that it's reduced by 50%. Oh, it's a no-brainer. You're going to buy the book. It's on sale. It doesn't take much thinking. So this expression can be used in a variety of contexts, whether talking about making decisions, certain actions, or we're describing things and situations. We're basically saying that it just doesn't take much thought. It's easy to know, to understand, to make the choice. We don't need to use our brain. But always remember that this is a little bit more of an informal expression. So perhaps if we are in a very formal or serious business setting, it might not be appropriate. But generally, everybody will understand what you mean when you describe something as a no-brainer. Okay, expression number 2 that we are going to look at is when we say, welcome to my world. Welcome to my world. What does that mean? The expression welcome to my world can really have a variety of different meanings. For example, it could be literal. Welcome to my world. Maybe somebody steps into my office. I've got lots of different things around, different models and cars. I could say, welcome to my world. Welcome, basically, to where I live, where I work. So it can have a little bit of a literal meaning. It can actually have a variety of different meanings. But we're going to look at one specific way that we can use welcome to my world. And that is when we want to show that we understand or can relate to something that someone else is telling us. Maybe it's something that's happened to them, a situation they have found themselves in. Well, maybe we've been through the same thing. Maybe we completely understand. Maybe we go through that kind of thing often. We can relate. So we say, oh, welcome to my world. Basically, you're acknowledging that you have been through exactly what they are going through. Now, used in the right context, in the right way, this can sound empathetic. It can sound understanding, showing that, you understand their situation. Perhaps someone says that, they're so stressed with their exams, they're studying so much and it's putting a lot of pressure on them. You can say, oh, welcome to my world. I know exactly how you feel. There's a real empathetic tone there, isn't there? It's a real nice way of using that expression and helping the other person to feel at ease. But there is a little bit of a warning when using this expression. It could possibly, if used in the wrong way, come off as a tad dismissive. In the sense that, again, let's say somebody says, oh, I'm so stressed about my exams. Oh, well, welcome to my world. Can you see how the different tone makes a difference? It almost says that we want to talk about ourselves, basically saying that they shouldn't feel like that because we have it worse. So the tone that we use this expression can make a big difference to its meaning. But used in the correct way, it can be quite empathetic and understanding. For example, maybe somebody feels overwhelmed because they are moving house. Moving house is a stressful thing. And maybe we have recently moved house. We could say, oh, welcome to my world. But it does get easier. You do settle in and the stress calms down. It just shows that we understand. And the tone of our voice says that we are trying to be empathetic and not dismissive. So that's expression number 2. Welcome to my world. Used to show that we understand or can relate to what somebody is telling us. Okay, expression number 3 is one that I have found myself in many times, and that is to be in over one's head. To be in over one's head. What does that mean? Well, it means to be deeply involved in something that is basically too much for us. We can't handle it. It's beyond our skill or expertise. It implies that we've bitten off more than we can chew. And that means it implies that we've taken on more than we can actually handle. And there's many different reasons that sometimes we find ourselves in over our heads. Sometimes it can be because of our abilities. Maybe we've said yes to a task. Our boss has come up to us and they've said, oh, can you do this for me? You say yes, you look what is involved, and you realize that it is beyond your abilities. So now you are in over your head, saying that we basically lack the necessary skills, knowledge, or resources to complete that task. Maybe we feel overwhelmed. We start something and then there's so much information we don't know, there's so much involved, so we start to feel overwhelmed. The demands or the challenges of that particular task are too much for us. We can't handle it. We're in over our head. Sometimes we just simply lose control, don't we? We start to lose control. Things start to spiral out of control. And before we know it, we don't know what's happening, whether we're coming or we're going, and we're in over our head. I think we have all felt this from time to time, particularly at work. I know I've done it sometimes when working for different English teaching companies. I take on a particular role at that company and I realize I'm in over my head. This is more than I can handle. Perhaps let me know in the comments. Have you ever felt like that? I think we all have. We could say, for example, at work, taking on 3 projects at once was definitely a mistake. I'm in over my head. It was too much. Or maybe as regards finances, taking on that new car loan was more than I can afford. Now I'm in over my head, meaning that the payments for that car are too much for us to handle. Or maybe it's something that we've chosen to take on, like 2 hobbies at once. For example, trying to learn a new language and a new instrument at one time was way too much. I'm in over my head, meaning that it was too much for you to handle. So you get the idea. If we are in over our head with something, basically, it's just too much for us for whatever reason. Okay, expression number 4 is a brilliant expression to use in business, and that is to touch base. To touch base. And to touch base is an idiom that means to make contact or reconnect with someone briefly. It typically implies a short and informal communication, often to check in and just see how things are going. And as an example, we might touch base at work. Let's touch base tomorrow to discuss the project update. Meaning, let's briefly talk tomorrow and we'll discuss that project further. Or maybe simply, we can use this one in life with friends at work. I'll touch base when I have more information. I'll touch base when I have more information. So whatever the situation is, we will briefly contact or get in touch with that person just to fill them in on the current situation. Or maybe we think of a friend that we haven't spoken to in a while, so we send them a message. I haven't spoken to you in ages. Let's touch base soon. Basically suggesting that we might just have a brief call with them just to see how they're doing. What's the latest? So that is a brilliant expression to use, to touch base, to connect, contact someone very briefly, to give updates or to get updated on a particular situation or simply to see how they are doing. Okay, the 5th and final expression that we are going to look at is to see the bigger picture. To see the bigger picture. I love this expression. Let's look at what it means. When we choose to see the bigger picture, it means that we are looking at a situation with a wider context. We are looking at the broader image of things. We're looking at all aspects of something, not just in a narrow-minded view. When we see the bigger picture, it's like we zoom out and see all the different aspects, the different views and implications of decisions or situations that we find ourselves in. It's like stepping back and taking a panoramic view of a particular decision or situation. Sometimes we just look at things like this, don't we? We focus on one detail. But sometimes we need to see the bigger picture. We need to look at every detail to truly understand what is happening. And when we see the bigger picture, we're generally looking at 3 components. Firstly, we're focusing on the whole picture. We're considering all the relevant factors and details that are involved. Secondly, we look at it from a long-term point of view. That's not always easy to do, is it? Sometimes we can only look at something from a short-term perspective. But when we see the bigger picture, sometimes we look at it more long-term and it becomes a lot clearer. And also, when we see the bigger picture, we look beyond our own ego or perspective. We look beyond our own interests. We look beyond what we need. And perhaps we start to understand what others need and how it will affect others rather than just ourselves. We see the bigger picture that involves everybody else. For example, in business, we might see the bigger picture by deciding on a marketing campaign that involved many different demographics. It looked at different customer needs, different cultures, a different competitive landscape, and a long-term brand image. So rather than just focusing on one particular customer, we're looking at the bigger picture. The marketing campaign is put out to different ones, not just the immediate demographic that we expected. Or sometimes with a friends, they might come to us with a problem, and at first we don't understand what their problem is. But when we zoom out, when we see the bigger picture and all the factors that are involved, we can understand why they feel that way. So basically, we are looking at the bigger picture. We're just taking a much larger view of something and looking at it from many different perspectives and angles. So there you go. That is 5 expressions that we can use in our daily life if we want to sound fluent, natural, and also speak English confidently. So I encourage you, as always, take notes of these expressions and try to use them over the next week in your life. Because the more you use them, they will become logged in your brain and then they are part of your vocabulary. Apply them to your life. If there were any new expressions in there, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you. If not, just say hi. And of course, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel for more English content. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed our lesson and I'll see you all very soon. Have a good one, guys.